Chapter 19. More leg! Laura's voice resonated across the indoor arena. Imogen gritted her teeth and did as asked, despite the feeling she could not possibly move this horse out more than she already was. Plato was a saint, but my goodness was he lazy. She was out of breath, sweating through her brand new sun shirt, the fleece already discarded and hanging on the standard in the center of the ring. Quite the opposite, Laura stood in the center of the large open space and looked fresh and clean. For someone who spent all day in a barn, the barn owner must spray herself with stain guard prior to leaving the house. Finally, when it felt like she couldn't take another step, Laura called out, "Now transition to a walk, and keep your leg on so he doesn't just stop and fall apart. That's right, make it smooth and keep him together. Very good." Despite Imogen wanting to die, she couldn't help but feel proud of how much she'd improved in her lessons. Laura was intense as a trainer, but Imogen found, as a person, she liked her very much, and after a working walk around the ring a few times, she was finally able to recover enough to say so. Laura laughed. "Girl, I love that mouth of yours. You just don't have a filter, do you?" Sheepishly, Imogen shrugged. "To my own detriment sometimes. I'm unfailingly honest." She guided Plato to the center of the ring, where he promptly put his head on Laura's shoulder and started to doze. They both laughed. "Well, I love it personally. Don't change." Something caught Laura's eye, and she turned to watch Bianca enter the arena with Fortune. "Hey, Bianca, getting a ride in after work?" Bianca glanced over at Imogen and then back to Laura. Brr, Imogen thought. She felt bad about how they started off, but in the weeks since she'd been riding her, Imogen had tried to make overtures and apologize. Clearly, Bianca was still not a fan. Bianca said, "Yes, work has been crazy lately, but I don't like going too long without riding Fortune." Laura responded, "Yes, a horse like him needs regular work to keep his brain busy. Glad he made it out today." Bianca swung a graceful leg over, and the two of them walked away from the mounting block. For all the initial impression of them, Imogen couldn't help but appreciate how good the pair looked together. They were both graceful, tall, and athletic. Let's admit it, they were both gorgeous, and they knew it. It was hard not to compare herself and come out wanting. Laura returned her attention back to Imogen and Plato. "Okay, now go cool down and stay on the inside of the arena. I'll start Bianca's lesson now, and we will work around you." Imogen nodded and wiggled her leg to wake up the sleeping gelding. "Come on, old man, let's walk." She moved off the buckle and just enjoyed watching the other pair as they warmed up. As she went to the end of the ring near the door to dismount, she heard a loud sound behind her, followed by, "Hey!" Imogen whipped around on the horse in time to see Fortune bolt from the corner at a gallop and give the largest buck she'd ever seen. Rodeo horses wished they had a buck like that. His head went through his front legs, and Bianca didn't stand a chance. Without a sound, she slammed face first into the footing, and he never stopped. He continued to buck his way around the ring, the saddle sliding under his belly and reins breaking as he stepped on them, before he swerved and bolted straight for Imogen and the exit. In horror, she stood paralyzed atop her own gelding and watched as the thoroughbred made a beeline straight to her, eyes wide. Finally, some semblance of common sense sparked, and Imogen kicked Plato on and moved them out of the way, as a bay blur sped past them both and out of the arena, off to who knows where. She turned slowly to see Laura running for Bianca, who hadn't moved. Throwing the reins over Plato's neck, she left him there to see what she could do to help, her heart in her throat. No matter what, she would never have wished Bianca harm. As she ran, she whipped her phone out and called 911, giving the dispatcher the location and describing the situation. They promised her they'd send an ambulance immediately, and thanking them, she hung up. "Laura, the medics are on the way." Laura simply nodded. Bianca lay scarily still on the ground, her beautiful white breeches a stark contrast on the ground. For the first time, Imogen didn't know what to do. She was always the first person to take control of a situation, but she was out of her element. She wanted to help, but she wasn't sure Bianca would want anything from her. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the poor woman groaned and spat out dirt. Laura quickly stopped her from moving. "Lay still, Bianca. You've had a fall and there might be spine damage. The paramedics are on the way." A tear slid down Bianca's cheek, leaving a trail through the dirt caked on her face, and she struggled to catch her breath and reply. It took her a few tries to fill her lungs all the way. "Fortune." Laura quieted her. "Shh, it's okay. He bolted, but probably went straight to his stall. Someone will get him. We want to make sure you're okay first." "Don't let him run away. Please." Laura glanced quickly at Imogen and hesitated, then said what she was thinking. "Imogen is here. She can go check on him if that helps." Imogen nodded but didn't say anything. It was hard to see such a strong woman like this. It was humbling. Bianca's reaction was unexpected. She nodded slightly, wincing with the movement, and whispered, "Yes, please, Imogen." It looked like the effort to speak was too much for Bianca, so Imogen nodded quickly. "I'll put Plato away in his stall and go check on Fortune right away. Just don't move. Help will be here shortly. I'll make sure he's okay. Just take care of yourself." She immediately turned and ran to Plato, who, true to form, had fallen asleep standing in his tack through the whole ordeal. If it wasn't such a dire situation, it would have made her laugh. Quickly, she untacked him in his stall and placed everything on the rack before latching the door and walking briskly to Fortune's stall. Her heart sank. He wasn't there. Where would he go? Imogen moved quickly to the barn exit. Fortune was a runner, and she didn't think he'd stop to graze at the paddocks, but she had to check. Nothing. Changing tactics, she looked into the distance at the tree line, squinting into the sun. Wait, was that movement? Shading her eyes with a hand, she looked at the trailhead that led up the mountain. There, a dark blur, but it was movement. He had gotten so far so quickly. She internally cursed that she'd taken the time to put Plato away. There was no way she could catch him on foot. As much as she didn't like the idea, she needed help. Turning around, she raced into the barn to make another phone call.